times we are in. Going further, and again with the advice of the National Security Council and the National Emergency Response Committee on the coronavirus pandemic, I also further order and direct the following phase measures. That places of worship will commence phased reopening for congregational worship and public, that is, individuals can attend worship, in strict conformity with all applicable guidelines and protocols, including the self-regulating guidelines that have been developed by our friends of the Interfaith Council, protocols and guidelines that I have received from them today. And to mention but a few, of the guidelines issued by the Interfaith Council, only a maximum of 100 participants will be allowed at each worship ceremony, which should not take more than an hour. That Sunday schools and madrasas shall continue to remain suspended until further notice, and in-person worship shall not include congregants under the age of 13 or above the age of 58, and shall neither include persons with underlying health conditions. These guidelines will be shared by the Interfaith Council with their colleagues across the country, and we have said that we need for our places of worship to open in a period that does not exceed 3 weeks after they have had the opportunity to fully engage with their colleagues across the country. Number 4, that following consultations with stakeholders in the education sector and cognizant of the surge in the rate of infections across the country, the Ministry of Education shall jointly, with all the stakeholders in the sector, today, but no later than tomorrow, notify the public on the resumption of the 2020 academic calendar for basic education as well as tertiary institutions. Number 5, that conscious that movement of people is in itself a catalyst for the spread of the disease, there shall be no movement of public transport vehicles into and out of areas previously under cessation of movement restrictions without the public transport providers being compliant with all protocols developed by the Ministry of Health. To operate public service vehicles, the operators will require mandatory certification from the Ministry of Health in consultation with the Ministry of Transport. Number 6, that local air travel within the territory of the Republic of Kenya shall resume effective Wednesday, the 15th of July, 2020, and again in strict conformity with all applicable guidelines and protocols from both the Ministry of Health and our civil aviation authorities. Number 7, that international air travel into and out of the territory of the Republic of Kenya shall resume effective the 1st of August 2020, once again in strict conformity with all protocols from the Ministry of Health, local as well as international civil aviation authorities, and any additional requirements applicable at the ports of departure, arrival, or transit. Number 8, that the prohibition against social and political gatherings of whatever nature is extended for a further period of 30 days. Number 9, that the restriction of the operation of bars to takeaway only and the restriction of the number of persons who can attend weddings and funerals is extended for the further period of 30 days. And 10, that the Ministry of Health, in conjunction with the Ministry of Industrialization, Trade and Enterprise Development, shall establish protocols for the resumption of the importation and sale of imported second-hand clothing. Fellow Kenyans, as we implement the phased reopening, I remain alive to the economic and social challenges facing our country. We know that jobs have been lost and some businesses have closed and many livelihoods endangered. And this, unfortunately, is the sorry state of affairs across the entire world. But history has taught us that the COVID crisis is not the first health disaster with such enormous economic challenges. There were many more before this one. However, we must all be cognizant that those who overcame previous disasters and finished on top did so by first changing their mindsets. Put differently, it is not enough for the government to pump resources into the economy using stimulus instruments, as we have been doing. Such efforts will undoubtedly go to waste if people do not co-create solutions with the government. Those who overcame previous disasters in history did so because they acted as one. The people and their government entered into a joint venture in order to conquer the challenges that they had. This therefore means that for us to revive the economy, reopen and remain open, the government and all citizens must pull together. Today, fellow Kenyans, I've invited you to exercise civic responsibility towards each other. But I do not want you to exercise this responsibility in the fight only against COVID-19. I want you also to have a shared responsibility with government in reviving our economy. And for us to do this, we must first, as I said before, change our national mindset. we have the opportunity to stitch a new national mindset and chart the future that is ahead of us. On June the 1st, Madaraka Day, I set the stage for the change in mindset. And I challenged all of us to reimagine Kenya the way our founding fathers imagined a nation from nothing. And today, we have a much younger population. And I challenge you and will support you to reimagine our economy, our business models, as we reopen tomorrow.